Now ready to roll. So good morning. And we're gonna try over here. The colors I'm not gonna measure. I'll try to highlight as we go along. Okay. So we were in the sugyas of Egla Rufa. And okay, we're gonna continue now with the Mishnayos. There's gonna be 2 or 3 Mishnayos today. Nimtza mechuvan bein shtei ayaros. We're on the daf Mem Hey Amud Beis. So it said that if they found someone dead outside of a city, so you measure him. The Chachamim, the Zkenim and the Shoftim, maybe 3, maybe 5, from Yerushalayim, from the Beis Din HaGadol come, and they measure from the cholol, from the person, to find out what city is the closest city. And then we're going to see that the Zkenim from that city have to bring a special kapara. But the first ones who come are the Chachamim from the Beis Din HaGadol, from Yerushalayim, that they're sort of the federal government. They're in charge of the whole Eretz Yisrael, and they're going to decide what city is in charge of doing the Egla Rufa. So Nimtza, just starting the mission on that. So if he was found, they measured into the cities to figure out what city he's closest to, and there was exactly, he's mamish in between. There are 2 cities that are perfect, and don't forget they come out they come with the measuring sticks with the those stuff that they measure. How do they call them? Laser stuff, and it's miduyak. It's in between shtei ayoros. So Rabbi Eliezer says, "Shtein meviin shtei eglos." Both cities bring and they bring 2 agolos. The Rabbi Eliezer. So they're going to bring 2 agolos. In other words, there's 2 cities. So city A brings and city B brings.
I'm sorry, which data is this?
Memhei Amud Beis.
Memhei Amud Beis.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mamish in the beginning in the mission over here. So Nimtza mechuvan bein shtei ayoros. The person was in between 2 cities. So Rabbi Eliezer, which is the Tan of our Mishnah, says Shtein meviin shtei eglos. Eglos, yeah, agolos is wagons. Both cities bring an egla rufa. In other words, each city 1 egla rufa. So you end up with 2 cities. 2, we'll see soon the scale of the cities. They each one bring their own egla rufa. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, and Adkan, that's 1 halacha in the Mishnah. The Gemara is going to bring a Tana which argues on this, but that's as far as the Mishnah goes, is that when there's 2 cities that are close, so there's 2. Another halacha. The Ein Yerushalayim mevia egla rufa. Even though we said that we measure to a city, and whatever city is the closest one brings an egla rufa, Yerushalayim is an exception, that Yerushalayim does not bring an egla rufa. We know that there are many other halachas, let's say Negoyim we have, right, with Nigei Batim, that Yerushalayim is exempt. Yerushalayim is different, and the Gemara is going to explain that Yerushalayim is a different status, because it's not considered one of the cities of Bnei Israel that they measured. It's sort of Yerushalayim lo nitzchal kol shvatim. Again, it's like an international city. The Gemara is going to say, so that's why Ein Yerushalayim mevia egla rufa. Yerushalayim does not bring an egla rufa, and as we said, just like there were certain times that you measure to a city that doesn't have a Beis Din there, so that city doesn't bring an egla rufa. So what do? You measure to the next closest city. And the Rambam says the same applies to Yerushalayim, that if they measured and it was the closest to Yerushalayim, so they don't look at that. They measure to the next city, which is closest. Okay, that's halacha number 2. Now comes halacha number 3. We said that you measure from the cholol that we found, we measure to the city, whichever one he's the closest to. Now let's say they found him, but he wasn't in one piece. So the Pashas in the Mishnah is talking, what do? Where do you measure from?
When you say not in one piece, I thought he's in one piece, but he's on the gavul, and his neck is on the gavul.
That's going to be the next. That's going to be the next case in the Mishnah. Where do you measure from? This is the rosh is in one place, not closer to one city, in one spot, and the body is in a different spot.
I see. Okay.
So there's a machlokes which. I guess which is the ikra? Where do you go?
Yeah,
so the Rabbi Eliezer says, sorry, the body stays where it is, and you take the head over to where the body is. That's Rabbi Eliezer. And then you would measure. That would be the pashas in the Mishnah. So we'll see in the Gemara maybe a different shot. And Rabbi Akiva says, Haguf Eitzel Haroish. You take the body to the head. That's the main part of the city. See, this is the Machukas, the Hasidim, and the literature. That's
The head is
the head is in, or the lave.
The neshama is in the head. No, we always say that the neshama is by the head. Yeah.
We always say that.
Look at the Sfarim. I'm not designing it,
Okay,
but
so again,
I've learned through the years.
Huh? Hashem. Okay.
Where's the person? They say a person is where his thoughts are. So if you're thinking about a person sits in a Besmedish, but he's always thinking, so then he's not really there. The other way, if someone could be working the field, if you're thinking of the Besmedish, then he's really there. So okay, so I don't know. This is
now, word. I don't know where you're coming from.
Huh? Okay, well, now we're still in Egla Rufa, so we'll get to see that. So now we're again. So nimtza rosha b'mokem echad v'gufa b'mokem acher. So there's a machlokes. Rabbi Eliezer says molichem harosh eitzel haguf. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Akiva omer haguf eitzel harosh. Me'ayin you moidedin. Where do they measure from? Over here, talking one person. A person, in other words, a person is full. But the question is, where do you measure from? If you measure from the head, he will be closer to city A. If you measure from his feet, he'll be closer to city B. So me'ayin you moidedin.
Even if it's one body.
Even if it's one body, where do you start the measuring from?
About the heart.
So we're going to see. The center of the person. And the Gemara and Yuma, Mamish has the same. We're going to see soon the Sugyas in the Gemara are very similar to the Gemaras in Yuma. And even though over here it says Mitiburoi, the Gemara in Yuma connects that to the lave. It talks about where the life of a person is. We'll see soon. The Gemara connects the Tiburoi as being the center of the person, including the heart. And Rabbi Akiva Omer, from the nose, which is on the face. Similar to what we had before, right? The Rabbi Akiva said the main part was the head, and you bring the guf etzel harosh, and the other says the other way around, the rosh etzel haguf. That's two shitas so far, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. And here there's a third shita, Rabbi Eliezer and Yankev oimer mimkoim shenasa cholol mitzavoroi. You measure from the person's neck, because that's where he became a cholol. That's where he was killed. The regular way of killing is, I guess, chopping off a person's head. And where does he become a cholol? From the neck. That's the regular cholol is from the tzavar. In Tanakh, sometimes it says also cholol on other things, not only on someone which was killed by a chereb.
From the place that he became a cholol, from his neck. From his neck is explaining where the place that he.
From the place where he became a cholol, which is from his neck. Tahainu mitzavaroi.
Okay, I think because we had before this that it has to be, it's only by decapitation.
And not,
only
right,
by
and not someone who was choked or something like that.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's a similar idea that that's the regular cholol is someone who.
So that's where he was killed. So you measure from where he was killed.
Right. Okay, so the three shitas over here, me'ayin o yumoidin. So really we had 3 or 4 halachas. One was about bein shtei ayoros, right? If he's between two cities. So we said the shita of Rabbi Eliezer is that you bring 2 eglah rufas. The second halacha was like a zaytig halacha that Yerushalayim does not bring an eglah rufa. Then we had you bring the body to the head or the head to the body. And when you have a full person, where do you measure from? 3 shitas, either the tibur, the center of the person, the tabur, the choitem, the nose, or from the neck.
Okay.
Now we start the Gemara. And the first part of the Mishnah was Nimtza Mechoven, right? Ben Shtei Ayoros. If he's bidyuk in between 2 cities, so you bring 2 eglah rufas. My time in the Rabbi Eliezer, Kesavar Efshar L'Tzamtzim Ukroiva Va'afilu Kroiva is 2 things he holds. First of all, he holds Efshar L'Tzamtzim, meaning that we assume that when we measured and we said it's exactly the same amount to city A and to city B, we were talking Miduyak, and they're talking both cities are Kroivas. That's number 1. Number 2, he learned, it says that the city which is the closest to the halal brings, and he says Kroiva, the closest city, could even contain the possibility of Kroivos of 2 cities that are the closest city. So in other words, he needs 2 things. First of all, that the Metzius should be that way, that there's taka 2 cities that are close, and also that the Torah taka allows or says the halacha of Hakroiv Alacholol, even when there are two cities that are close.
If Charlotte Tzamtzem means what?
You could be mitzamtzim, which means you can, what's the word?
Exact.
Exact.
Be precise.
Be precise.
What does that mean?
Now, when you're measuring, you measure to one and it was exactly 54 meters and 30.30. And the other city was that. Now, that means that two cities were exactly, this guy was killed in,
He's saying it is possible to be
So it is
precise,
possible
and
to
it
be
says
precise.
Bekrova. So
Right.
first, that's why you're saying two.
two things. First of all, that
You
Rabbi
can
is
measure
precisely in
precisely,
between.
And
And that even
Krova
two.
could mean
Two.
close, and there could be more than one close.
Meaning the two of them could be the exact same amount, the millimeters.
Close can mean, it doesn't have to mean the close.
Closest, two could mean closest.
Two could be closest.
Right. So that's over the Ezra. Now the halacha is actually not that way. This way, the halacha is that we hold ef shalat samtzim. That means that we can't be precise, and we assume that only one of them is closer. We just don't know which one because when we measured, they came out exactly the same. But we assume that we're a little bit off, and really there's one that's closer than the other. And what happens is that both cities together bring one egla arufa. And this Canaan will do it, and it is attributed to whichever one is taka the closest. They sort of do it al tanai. That's what the Rambam says.
Okay.
And that was halacha number one. Halacha number two. The ein Yerushalayim mevia egla arufa. Why? Yom hakla kra l'rishta. Okay, Sava Yerushalayim lo niskal kol hashvatim. The pasuk when it talks about the egla arufa, it says ki yimatzei chalal ba'adama Hashem asher Hashem alikecha noisin. L'cha l'rishta noifel b'asada. Where's the pasuk? You didn't bring it up here. Let me see if we have it. Wait, no. Give me the psukim. How do I do that? Here we go. Here we go. Perfect. And here, this pasuk. It says no. It says ki matzei chalal b'adam. When you find a dead person, b'adama in the earth in the land. Asher Hashem alikecha noisin l'cha l'rishta. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you to be yorish. Now, the rishta doesn't just mean there's two kind of things always. There's kibush, there's when you conquer it, and there's when you sit in a place and dwell. So it says that the parsha of Egel Arufa is when Kimati Chalol Ba'adama in the earth, in the land, that Hashem Elokecha noisin l'chal rishta. Now, Yerushalayim, we're going to hold over here as loinis chal kol shvatim, which means that it wasn't allotted to any special shevet, any particular shevet. Every place in Eretz Yisrael, a certain shevet got it, and then they lived over there. Whereas Yerushalayim is loinis chal kol shvatim. It's sort of a federal, international city, or whatever, national. But everyone has it, and that's why there's no, you can't call that l'rishta. And Mimela, since Yerushalayim is not called l'rishta, it's not within the parsha of bringing an egla arufa. Now, I should point out that it's a little bit shver, the drasha, the Gemara, because really what the pasuk talks about is that when you find the dead person, and it's very possible that this person was found outside of Yerushalayim, in Adam Asher Hashem Elokecha Noisin L'chal Rishta. It's just that Yerushalayim is the closest city, right? In other words, we're saying that Yerushalayim is not called L'rishta, but the person wasn't found in Yerushalayim, and the pashas in the pasuk when it says talks about L'rishta, it's not talking about the city that brings Egla Arufa. It's talking about where we found the dead person. Well, the Ma'aseh the Gemara says that since Yerushalayim is not considered L'rishta, so that's why it's not B'chlal bringing an Egla Arufa. You say that. So that's when you think Yerushalayim Leinis Chalkol Shvatim. Doesn't mean that no one has it. Everyone has it. Well, where else do you have Leinis Chalkol Shvatim? In America, I say this on Twitter. That's how I'm getting a little carried away. In what state is Washington, D.C.?
It's not in the state.
It's not in any state. It's not in Virginia. It's not in Maryland.
DC.
It's D.C. The District of Columbia. Why? That in order that each one of the colonies should feel that their capital is Washington, D.C. If it's in a certain state, the Shayach Lecha. So I'm just a second-class citizen. The same idea, Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is a no nachla.
You learned that in history?
What? No.
In Sefer Yechezkel, Shalosh Beit Mikdash Shlishi, it will belong to
The Nasi, the Chelk of the Nasi. So the Nasi also sort of, it's not a Shevet, he's the
He
Melech.
represents everyone.
He represents everyone. It's not in Yehuda. they take out the chelik of the nasi, and in the nasi, right?
Nasi shaykh to everyone.
I have a note here that the Chazon Ish said that Yerushalayim was given to Binyamin and Yehuda and Binyamin, but that later it was then given to all of Klal Yisrael.
Because there's a machlokas in the Gemara about exactly how this. It sounds like there's two shitas. One is like Neschalkel Shvatim, and one is Yehuda and Binyamin. So maybe the Chazon Ish is trying to make it fit. Okay, that was just a little off tangent. Nimtza roishe b'mokim echad v'gufay b'mokim acher. So we had in the Mishnah a machlokas Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. When you find the head in one place and the body in another place, that Rabbi Eliezer said, how'd it go?
The says by the body.
By the body, and Akiva says you bring the body to the head. So b'mai kamiflagi. What are they talking about? In other words, what's the nosei? What's the subject of the machlokas? Ilay malinyan medida kamiflagi, that they're talking about where you measure from. Do you measure? In other words, will you move the body to the head and then measure from there, or move the head to the body and then measure from there? Hamidi ketani seifa. We already have in the end of the Mishnah. You know you moided. And we had a machlokas whether you measure from the nose, from the head, or you measure from the tabur, from the body. So why do you have to move the head to the body or the body to the head? We already know. You say that we measure from the head, so we don't have to move the body to the head. Just start measuring from the head. And the other sheeter, Eliezer holds that you measure from the body, from the tabur. So why do you have to move the head to the body? Just measure from the body. So midik ketani seifim ayino yomoidedim. Michal the Reisha is talking about something else, not b'medida askinon. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, what's it talking about? The Reisha, another halacha, which is a bonus. The meis mitzvah kana makoymoi kamiflege. We know that someone who's killed, and we don't know who killed him, and also not only that, but he doesn't have anyone to be mitapel to bury him. He's now going to go and buy a kever for a lot of money. So meis mitzvah in Eretz Yisrael, at least, is koina makoymoi. That wherever we found him that he was killed, we bury him over there, and that becomes his place. So now the shaila is, where are you covering him? When we're going to bury him, and he's koinem mekoimoi. So where is called mekomo that you bury him? Do you bury him in the place of the head, and you take the body to the head, or do you take the head to the body? As we know, so now that you bring the body to, you bring the head to the body, that's Eliezer. And Rabbi Akiva says, Haguf Eitzel Haroish.
That's what we already said.
Right, but the Gemara is finishing off that the Machlokas of Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva was not as far as where to measure from, but rather, Benogei the halacha of Kana Mekoimoi, where's Mekoimoi? Now we're going to bury him together. So which way do we do it as far as burying? What taka is the machlokas over here? So the Gemara is going to see that it's simple, that the shaila was, where was he killed? When we say meis mitzvah koina mekoima, it means in the place that he was killed. So where was he killed? When we see someone's head in one place and the body in another place, where do we assume was the act of the being killed? Mar Sovar, Rabbi Eliezer holds, we'll see, Gufei, the body, beduchte nofel, fell in its place. In other words, in the place where he was killed. Reisha, the head, the nadi v'nofel, is that moved and fell somewhere else. And that's why when we say kana mekoimo, it's the place of the body. And if the head's further down, so you move the head over here. Omar Sava, Rabbi Akiva says, no. Probably what happened was Reisha, heicha the nofel. The head, when it was chopped off, it fell wherever he was. Gufa who the roids ba'azal. The body keeps on running even a little bit afterwards. And that's why the place of the actual where he was killed is where the head is and not where the body is. So in other words, Machlokas Reblezer and Rabbi Akiva is trying to figure out where the place of that he was killed took place. That's as far as Meis Mitzvah Koidim Koimim. That was like a bonus that came into the Mishnah. And now we're in the fourth halacha, which is again Egla Rufa, Me'ayin Hoyu Moididin. Where do you measure? When we're measuring the person, what city he's the closest to, where do we start the measuring from? So we said the Rabbi Akiva says the first sheet was Eliezer. Eliezer says Mitiburoi, from the stomach, from the body, from the person. Rabbi Akiva says Michoitmoi, from the nose, and Rabbi Yankov says from the heart, from the tzavar, from the neck. So again, B'maikom Iflagi, Mar Savar, this is going to be Rabbi Akiva that says that you measure from the nose. Iker chiyusa, the main of a life of a person is ba'ape, is in the person's nose, which we call the breath. The Gemara in Yuma has a similar machlokes about when do we consider a person alive, when do we consider a person not alive. That it goes with the breath, with the breathing. Kol asher nishmas ruach chayim ba'apav. Ba'apav is a nose. So in other words, when a person is breathing, he's considered alive. Once he's not breathing anymore, then he's not alive.
Right, the Hashem puts breathe the ruach into the nose of the man.
Yafa. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. I think the Gemara in the similar. But the Gemara brings a very similar pasuk. Kol asher nishmas ruach chayim ba'apav. Let's go. Omar Savar and Rabbi Eliezer says, Ikechi upa. Ikechiu say betibure. The main life of a person is in the tabu, which literally means the stomach, not really the stomach.
I thought the navel.
The navel. Yeah.
That's the navel, but that's the
And the-
area where the
Right,
motion is the
the
strength of the person.
But that's also breathing, I think. But I think
Heart is not far from there also, right?
the Gemara in Yuma puts this together with Liboy. The Gemara over here is
So
on-
maybe what Chaim David said, it's the whole diaphragm, now you have the heart. Okay?
I'm not
The
sure.
seat
I
of
don't
the-
know.
It's the seat of the heart. It's the upper organs as opposed to the lower organs, which is the
What?
stomach.
And that's the
Here's
I
a
mean,
belly button.
I have here
just-
tiburo as a note that it's means brain dead.
the Tibur itself.
No, that it means that the person's brain dead.
If
How do you get to that?
I don't
Not
know.
sure tibur.
Maybe
I know that in
I noticed wrong.
the other way around, as far as
Rabbi
breathing,
Akiva is saying it's
when
breathing.
when a person is
Stops
brain dead, then it
breathing.
stops breathing. It's the
Mhm.
stem of the brain is what controls the breath, if I remember correctly. And if he's brain dead, after they count the stem, then he's really not breathing on his own. And even if a person's on a respirator, it's just that the machine is doing
artificial.
that. It's artificial, but be'etzem he's not breathing. And if I remember correctly, there's a big
It was a mathematical.
there's a machlokas
the
as far
question
as
is alive,
which is very, very nogea as far as the transplants when you could take. So the halacha is that if someone's dead be'etzem, then you could take one of his organs and save a person's life, then for sure you do it. That fully al namoidi, that if a person is dead, then you would take a dead person's organ and implant it into a live person to save the person. But that's only if the person's dead. If person number one is not dead, so then you can't kill person number one in order to save person number two, even though person number one is
Dying.
is dying. In other words, we don't foresee him a long life.
Mhm.
And person number two could live long. The Sheila is, when do we consider a person dead? We know that a person dead could be, it's a social issue. In other words, even after a person's heart stopped and his breathing stopped, there's still a lot of live cells in a person until he starts decaying. There's a few days, there was one time such a thing that they said not to bury people till 2 days later because the body still has live cells. So when do we consider, in halacha, it's not like that. In halacha, a person is already considered dead before that.
Yeah.
So the shadow is, when is a person considered dead? If once a person is not breathing, of course not temporarily, be'etzem, he cannot breathe anymore. So he's already considered dead, even while the heart is going. So then be'etzem, in the hospitals, they could still take out organs and use it to someone else. And be'etzem, you're taking an organ of someone who's dead and saving a live person with it. Others say, and I didn't get exactly why, that it's
Rabbi
not,
Rashi.
I don't know exactly, I just remember that it's a thing, that it's not they brain dead, even though he's not really breathing, maybe we don't really understand it, and maybe the breathing is not totally finished, or maybe it has something with the heart. I'm not sure exactly where the thing is. And mainly you can't take it from a person, even though he's brain dead, because maybe he's still considered alive. But that's the shaila if he's already considered dead. And if I remember correctly from the sugya, the pashta says that it goes with the breathing. And once a person's brain dead and he's not breathing, and the boy from Pashut, he is considered dead
I
already.
understand that it's still
That's just,
it's still a machlokes between Rabbi Yashiv and Rav Shlomo Zalman. But Rav Shlomo Zalman, who always went with the heart, in his later years, had an experiment done with a sheep and changed his psak. But at the time that he was ready to change his psak, they said the machine is not 100% accurate and cannot prove that it's 100% brain dead. So he wrote down that if there ever is a machine that's 100% accurate, that it's brain dead, then you go with the breathing.
Then, mhm.
And then 5 years after he died, that happened. So all the hospitals in Eretz Yisrael now go with Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and the nafkamina is is lung and heart transplant.
What they say, if he's brain dead, you can.
If
Yeah.
it's brain dead,
And
he's
that's the
dead.
pasha.
He's dead.
Well,
Yeah,
Yasha
okay.
went not like that, but the pasha is
And it was a big
a big tumult.
change, because if you have to wait for the heart to stop, then it's no more longer viable for a transplant. Okay, so you're saying
But
Rebbe
that-
Eliezer?
But that's really the shiloh over here, where the chiyus is, where
Uh-huh.
when we're talking now that we measure from the dead person, so the shiloh is, where's the person? Wherever the life is, so
Uh-huh.
when he's not alive,
Oh, I see.
that's
That's
where
why
the life is
Tibor would
not.
be like the heart.
Right, so that's where you would measure from.
I see.
Okay. So Lema Kihani Tanoi, maybe the shiloh of where the life of a person is totally in a different machlokas Tanoi, that we have a machlokas, Mehechan Avlad Noitzer. And then he starts becoming a person. Where does it start from? Some say Miroishoy. It's that the creation starts from the head. As it says in the pasuk, I'm sorry. Ato goizi. It says from the stomach of my mother, you are my. What's the word goizi? I don't know. I don't know what the pasuk pshat is, but it says gozin is reich v'ashlichi, and we see that goizi refers to the head, to the ear of a person. With me ato goizi and Eov. You have it? Oh, it's not. It's in Tehillim.
From
Tehillim,
the innards
Ayin,
of my
Aleph.
mother.
Yeah, and what's ato goizi?
Innards? I don't know.
No, that's mimei imi.
Mimei imi.
This is the proof on the text.
It says Ayin Aleph.
Gozi. You withdrew me.
You
withdrew me?
Moitzi. Yeah, you drew me.
You
Moitzi.
withdrew me.
You took me out.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, that's ato goizi, like gziza, I guess. You cut me out. And gozin is reich v'ashlichi. It says on the crown, cut off your crown, but kaviyachal that would be going on the head. If it says
Okay, it's like tear out your heart.
yeah,
Tear out
your head,
head.
your hair, yeah, your nice hair.
Uh-huh.
So Mamela what? Mamela me, you make my head. So we see that the person begins from the head. And that the Gemara understands that would be the shita of Rabbi Akiva, that we go with the choitem, with the nose, because the head is the main part. A person is created from his tibur. And then Umushaliach Sharoshim, Sharashoi Elach ve'elach. And that would be the shita of Rabbi Eliezer, that the main part of the person is in the tibur, in the body. And the Gemara says, no, it's not totally. Afilu Tema Abishol, even Abishol that says that the person's creation begins from his tibur, still he holds that the life of the person is by the nose, by the head. Ad kan likam Abishol, Elo le'inyin Yetzira. Abishol only says that when the Yetzira, when the beginning of creation starts, then he's created from the tibur. The chim mitatzer, when he's created, when he's noitzar, Vlad, when the baby is created, mimitziasei mitatzer. He begins the creation begins from the center. Avalin in chiyusa, but the life itself, the kuli alma ba'apeu, is really in the nose. The ksiv, as it says in the pasuk, kol asher nishmas ruach chayim ba'apav. Everyone who has the breath of life in his nose. So that was two shitas. Rabbi Akiva, which said the nose, and Rabbi Eliezer that said the body. And then Rabbi Eliezer ben Yankiv from where he became a cholol, which is mitzavoroi. Where do we see that the person's tzavar is? That's where the cholol, that's the main cholol. At my time, the Rabbi Eliezer ben Yankiv could say Laseis oischa or isoch. I think isoch.
Makes more sense.
Yeah,
I suck, man.
I think it's in Yechezkel. But you see that Savarei Chalalei Rishoim. So the Chalalim is by the Tzavar. So that was all as far as measuring where we measure from. Now we're finished measuring, and we know already what city is going to bring the Egla Rufa. So now Nifteru Zikne Yerushalayim v'halchu lahem. The Zikne Yerushalayim, they were in charge of the whole Eretz Yisrael. So when we found someone ba'adam and we want to measure to what city is going to be responsible, so we call the federal government. We call the Zikne Yerushalayim. But now we already have a certain city that it's close to, and now we call this Canaan from that city, and they're gonna start taking over. So again, Niftru Zikne Yerushalayim v'Hol Cholam. The Zikne Yerushalayim go home. Zikne Oisa Ha'ir, there's Canaan from the city that was the closest one. Meviim Eglas Bokar. They bring a Eglas Bokar, a calf. Now we quote the pasuk, Asher lo yimoshcha ba'oil. It says in the Torah, Eglas Bokar Asher lo yimoshcha ba'oil, that it didn't carry a yoke. And now the Mishnah puts in citation, Ve'ein hamum poisel ba. Didn't pull a yoke. Ve'ein hamum soon yimin shalayala. Very good. Ve'ein hamum poisel ba. The mum does not passel, even though we know a mum passels by korbanos, but by a egla rufa there's no and by paraduma. But over here by egla rufa there's no psul of a mum. It's almost like the pasuk. It says, they take it down to a nachal eson, to a hard valley. Now, what does eson mean? Eson k'mashmoi kosher. Eson means hard. And the Mishnah says, eson kosher. Even if it's not hard, it's a different valley. We'll see soon. It's still kosher. Like the Gemara is going to say that it's not ma'akiv to have eson. Maybe I should say a word over here. And there's a big machlokas. What eson, nachal eson means. The shayla really is, what is a nachal? All Americans think always that a nachal is like a nohar. A nachal has water running through it. A stream.
Mm-hmm.
But nachal really is sort of like a canyon or a valley. And not necessarily does it have water. Many times it could also have water, especially in the winter or sometimes from the spring. And a mele nachal, which means a hard valley, means to say just a valley that goes down and it's hard on the bottom. And that's how most of the early Targumim also go in the Chumash. The Rambam has that the Nachal Eson means a valley which has water running through it. And he says that Eson means that it's Zoyreim Bekosher. That's how he knows the Mishnah of Nachal Eson Kosher, that it
Has to have
it has a big flow, what do you call it? A strong flow, a strong current. And that's how we learn. We'll see soon that they wash their hands. The pasuk says that they bring down the egla rufa to the nachal, and the zikni is here that they wash their hands on the nachal. What does it say in the pasuk? Where's the pasuk here? There we go. Yeah, we should talk to see the pasuk inside. Yeah, but even before that, it says that they wash their hands. But the Rambam Kavayachal learns that there's water there, right? There's water running through it. But the Pashat shot would mean that they just bring water in a shissel, in a pail, and they wash the water. But maybe it's kedai to see the psukim inside, because before we do it, over here, it says, Ki yimatzei chalal ba'adama, asher Hashem Elokecha noisein lecha l'rishta, neifel b'asodeh, lo yinoida mi hikohu. They don't know who killed it. So v'yotzu zekeinecha v'shiftecha. We had that before. That was with the skenim and the shiftim from Yerushalayim. Umadedu el ha'arim, to the cities asher svivo yisacholol, that's next to the dead person. V'hoya ha'ir hakroiva el ha'cholol, the city that's the closest to the dead person. So v'lokcho ziknei ha'ir hahi, the elders of that city, they take a eglas bokar, a calf. Asher lo ubad ba, that it wasn't worked with that calf. Asher lo moshcha ba'oil, that didn't pull a yoke. And they take this calf, v'hiridu zikni ha'irahi, those Canaan from that city, take down the egla el nachal eson to a hard valley. Asher lo ye'oved boy, we'll see soon that you're not allowed to work in that valley. V'lo yizareya, and not to plant in that valley. They cut from the back. We'll see from the oref. They cut the egla harufa. They cut it. V'orfu sham es egla banachal. V'nigshu hakoyanim b'nei Levi. Then you have the kohanim that come over there. We'll see soon what their job is. Kivom bochar Hashem melikecha, the sharsoi that Hashem chose them to be mishares ulevarech b'shem Adonai al piyam yechal rivachal nagat. Doesn't say what they do. We'll see that soon. But now, all the elders of the city which were close to the person who was killed, they wash their hands, and they say, our hands didn't spill as Adam hazeh, we had this a few days ago. And kaper, Hashem should forgive, in other words, Hashem, please be kaper l'amcha Yisrael asher padisa. V'al titein dam naki b'kerev amcha Yisrael, and don't put the owners of the innocent blood on Am Yisrael. And the pasuk says, "V'nichaper lahem adam," and with this they will be mechuper for the dam. Atatavar is right there.
But it doesn't say that you use the water from the Nachal.
No, it doesn't say. Right. Maybe it would be an association, but it doesn't say. Let's say though. So again, we were in the Mishnah. So the Ziknei Oisa Yim Mevim Eglas Bokar Shalei Moshcha Bo'oil, like it says in the pasuk. Ve'in Mum Poisel Ba. Mum does not pass it. Umayrid and Oisa. This is where we were holding. Umayrid and Oisa, they take it down the Nachal Eson to the hard valley. Eson Kamashmoi kosher. But the Mishnah says that Afa Pisha Eino Eson, it's still kosher b'di'eved. And then what do they do? Va'orfin Oisa bekoifitz machoreah. The Oirif, how is he translated? Orfin Oisa. They cut it, they chop it from the back. In other words, it's not shchita, which is usually done from the neck. They chop it from the back. On the place where they did that, also
Kofitz?
koifitz is a axe or a chopper, right? Unlike a hatchet.
Sorry,
No, it's good. I don't know the words. It's a hacker.
I used to speak English also.
Oh,
A
that's
hawker.
the Mila.
A hawker.
You know the butcher shop is hacker, no?
Cutters.
Ziknei Oisa here.
It's called hackers?
I don't know.
Guessing, and this.
That's to make pieces though. That wasn't for the check thing.
Yeah,
Right,
not for the
right.
chef thing. Yeah, you're not allowed to chef that way.
A hatchet axe.
Huh?
Hatchet axe.
What is we asked
How
about
did you say orphan?
the Avrohom and
Yeah.
they disapparated it with a cleaver from the back.
And a
Cleaver.
cleaver cleaves.
Capital.
Cleaver.
Decapitate, yeah, nice thing.
Decapitate.
Decapitate, that's the word, thank you.
The Kovetz Machorel. Umekoima, the place where they did that now is also Milazroya Umila Abid. You're not allowed to plant over there or work the land. Umuter, but you are allowed to lisrik some pishton. In other words, to use the area just to do combing the pishton, which you're not doing it to the karka itself. You're just using the area. And even ulenaker shamavonim, which l'chayra means just to make stones over there, but not to use it as a quarry.
Nakir.
Because then you're actually
not
using
a quarry, but what is nakir then?
naker would mean to
Chisel.
probably.
Makes sense.
You can chisel the
It's
stone,
not
but you
taste.
can't use it.
I mean, you can use the area just as a work
Area.
but not to take the stones out of that mountain. We have stones that you took from a different mountain, and you
I
could
see.
use it over there as your factory. What does he say? Chisel?
Yeah.
Well, the nakir shamavonim. Ziknei oisa. That's that pasuk. Next pasuk. Ziknei oisa ha'ir. Ruchatzines yadeim b'mayim. They wash their hands with water. B'mkoim arifa shal egla. We were oiriv the egla. Right. We saw this in the pasuk. V'oimrim, and they say. Quote,
So
quote.
this is prior, right? Prior to the hacking of the neck.
What does it say?
No, the neck is hacked.
Sorry.
And then afterwards, which was already Arufa Banachal. And where are we? And what did they say? That's the quote from the pasuk. And now the Mishnah asks, they have to say that they didn't kill him. Our hands didn't spill his blood, and our eyes didn't see. Also, did we think that this Canaan are the ones saying this? They're the ones who spill blood. Ella, what do they mean spilling blood? Not just kapshuto that they didn't kill him, but even shaloi bali adenu petarnu. They didn't come to us and we just sent him away without giving him food, or we didn't see him and we let him go without escorting him. That would also be called, in a sense, to spill the blood and their responsibility. So they're saying we didn't have this. That was that pasuk. Now, the hakoyanim oimrim kaper amcho Yisrael asher padisa Hashem al titin davnoki. This is a big chiddush. In the pasuk it says, in pasuk hey, we have that the koyanim come. It says again. In pasuk Dalet, it talks about the ziknei yirahi take down the egla sheyira over manochal. Pasuk Hey says that the koyanim come. Why did the koyanim come? Because Hashem chose them l'sharos le'yelavorech v'shem Hashem, and they're the ones who are in charge. I'll call riva chol noga. What do? I don't know. They stand there. It seems like Maybe they're just like overseeing. It doesn't say. But then in Pasuk Vav it says that who comes? The Ziknei Irahi Akroyim Melachol come, and they wash their hands and they say Yadenu lo yishavchu es adam hazeh ve'einenu lo yira'u. And who says Pasuk Ches? Kaper L'Amcha Yisrael. Pashtus. It's a continuation. No, it's the same quote. The Ziknei here continue. They're saying we didn't do it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please forgive. But the Pasuk learned, the Mishnah learns, no. This Pasuk Ches, the Kohanim say. Because if not, what's the Kohanim's job? We said that they come, and what do? Just to stand there. So they're the ones who daven, who say the Kapel Amcha Yisrael Asher Pradisa Hashem. So v'akoyanim oimrim Kapel Amcha Yisrael Asher Pradisa Hashem v'al titin dom noki bekerev Amcha Yisrael. That's the pasuk. And then the pasuk also continues v'nichaper lohem hadam. So the Gemara, so the Mishnah explains. That's not part of the quote. The end quote is before that. The Ruach HaKodesh is answering or saying, when you do the above aforementioned seder, then hadam is kaper lahem. The dam will be wiped off, will be taken care of.
But
That's the Mishnah.
The Ziknei are saying, Zikanim are saying that they certainly they would have made a lavui for them, right?
Right.
But somebody didn't make a lavui.
Well, maybe even with the Livui, still he was killed. It could happen, you know. We'll see soon. Livui doesn't mean that he has to walk with him the entire way. I don't think so. It's a lot. It means show him the beginning.
Yeah, the
It
voice
doesn't mean
down.
somebody in. It doesn't mean somebody in the didn't give them food or didn't do the lavui.
It does mean, but Livui just means that he walked in the beginning of the way. That would already be considered enough Livui. It doesn't mean that he walked with him the whole way. So let's say this Canaan said, we will love him. He was in the old Yerushalayim now. We walked with him till
They're not talking
Shai,
about
and then we
them.
sent him on his
We're
way.
not talking about them, of course. We said what we think that they wouldn't. So it's saying on all of these.
No, we would think that they wouldn't kill someone. Maybe they would be able to send someone without the Livui. And that's why they're saying that we didn't do that. But in other words, why do they have to even say that they didn't do it? It was so obvious that they're not the people who would kill him. We're saying that we're not referring necessarily to the actual killing. We're referring even to responsibility. Right, but that has to be said. That's not obvious. There's a certain part that they wouldn't even have to say. They wouldn't have to say we're not the ones who actually murdered him. But there is a part that they have to say, but they have to say it. That we didn't do anything irresponsible. That has to be said. But they're saying we didn't do it.
Irresponsible would be if they didn't
Send them away without livur, or not give them food.
And now I'm asking, but that's them. But what about the people? Did somebody do that?
See, someone killed them also, it seems.
Well, let's say not from their city.
Okay, so we don't know. Could be everyone gave him food. So maybe everyone was responsible and still he got killed. In other words, not every time someone's killed is it because of being responsible.
What kind of a kapor? If everybody's responsible, what kind of a kapor is that then?
They're not responsible.
Why are they not responsible? Because
they did
they
whatever
did
was
give
in
them
their
food?
village.
So in other words, they did give them food. They did give
them
food,
avoid.
and still they got killed.
And still he got killed.
And when they make this declaration, they're talking for the whole people.
I think so. Or
Okay.
maybe only this. Last time you said that it was for themselves. Maybe not for the whole people.
Okay, that's fine.
They're talking for themselves or for
On
the.
one hand, they're responsible for the whole people. Now, how can they be responsible for everybody?
How can they say that someone from their city didn't kill him? They don't know.
Huh?
And also.
You're right.
They don't-
Maybe we did.
Well, yes. Are they, somebody think that they're the ones who killed him?
So in other words, we're referring only to this Canaan.
And they can assume responsibility.
I mean, I know that-
So what's going? So he's asking what's the Glarufa doing? What's happening? This Canaan are saying it's not us. How's a? Oh.
The question comes up because let's say there's a Rebbe of it doesn't have to be that it's Hasidic, but let's take a Hasidic Rebbe and he's got thousands of followers. And then one follower does something and it makes the whole group look bad. Why didn't the Rebbe say anything? Well, and people say, well, he calls himself a follower, but who says that he listens to the Rebbe?
Mhm.
So that's how they get out of that. That you
Mhm.
can't control everybody. Everybody has free will.
Right.
So also in this case, what are the Zikanim doing and saying, and what kind of a kapora is it?
If They say that they're
If
not
everybody-
responsible.
If
You say,
somebody
but
in their
in their
city
city
was
did it.
still responsible. Okay,
no.
sad question.
Kapara for everybody in the city.
So we're saying someone was
Or the kapora for the innocent ones in the city.
Many times the whole city gets punished because of the bad people. Yeah, then Kal Yisrael, then whole Kal Yisrael was punished because of a minority of people. So maybe
True,
this is,
true.
maybe this is a couple of that. I
Okay.
don't know, but,
Achan,
okay.
okay.
The Gemara is gonna now go about an Amud on the first halacha that we had over here. We said that we bring an eglos bakar, asher lo yimoshcha ba'oil, that didn't pull a yoke. Ve'ein amum poisel, but there's no problem if it has a mum. Even though karbonos have a problem having a mum, we know even para aduma, which is done outside, has a problem if it's a mum. But the egla rufa is not a problem if it has a mum. And now we're going to try to explain why. Gemara says, why not? The hey mum poisel be'egla, the mum should pasel be'egla rufa. Why? Mikal v'chomer, we should learn how to have a kal v'chomer from para aduma that the mum should be a problem by egla rufa. What would be the kal v'chomer? Uma para, which is a kal she'ein ashonim poislis ba. That even if it gets older, it doesn't become puzzle just because it's older. So the years, the shonim, does not passel by a paraduma. So the paraduma is a kal. Still, we see that it has a chomer, that mum poisel ba, that if it has a mum, it's a problem, as it says before by paraduma, sher imba mum. So egla rufa, shonim poisel ba, which is more chomer than paraduma. Because if it gets too old, then it's not considered an egla anymore and it becomes puzzle. So it's more chomer than paraduma because the shonim is poisel ba. So for sure, it should have the chumrah of paraduma. Einoidin sheyehe mum poiselba. That a mum should pass over egla rufa. That's the Gemara's kasha. Why does it say in the Mishnah that a mum does not pass over egla rufa? It should pass over from egla rufa, and we should learn it from a kal v'chomer. That a paraduma, which is more kal, that doesn't have a psul shonim, still it has a psul of mum. So for sure, a egla rufa, which is more chomer, that does have a psul of shonim, should have a psul of mum. But the Gemara no, Shani Hasam, only paraduma has a problem of a mum. Why? The Omar Kro Asher Ein Ba Mum. By paraduma, when it talks about not having a mum, it doesn't say Asher Ein Mum. It says Asher Ein Ba Mum. That we darshin Ba by paraduma mum poisel. The mum poisel be egla, and mum does not passel by egla arufa. Elomiyato. So now the Gemara is asking another kasha. If you darshan that ba is a miyut, so we know that just like we're gonna soon see that there's a certain halacha that paraduma learns from egla rupa. It says by egla rupa, asher loy ubad ba and asher loy ola oil. That even if you do any avoda, it passes. By paraduma just says asher loy ola oil. That it didn't have a yoke. By egla rupa, it says any avoda. So asher loy ubad ba, any avoda that you did, passel it. And we know that we're going to learn from Egla Rufa that just like Egla Rufa, every avoda passes, so too Paraduma will have that every avoda passes. So the Gemara says, how could you learn from Egla Rufa to Paraduma? It also says the word ba by Egla Rufa. It says Ashalei Ubad ba. Elomeata lo yiu shar avoda is poislis ba means should not passel. Shar avoda should not passel the para. That's the some have even the gears there over here. Lo ye shar avoda is poislis bepara by Paraduma. Alama on Rav Yehuda Marav, we know Rav Yehuda Marav says that other avodas also passel by paraduma. Heniachala udin shel sakin psula. Even if you just put on it a bunch of sakin of bags, that's enough to passel it. We'll get to this soon. That egla rufa has a certain kula that only when it's moishich. But the point over here is not so much the Allah and the mashach, but the point is that even a uda shel sakin, which is not an oil, which is a different avodah, also passes by paraduma, and we know that we learned that from egla rufa. Why? It says Ashalei ubad ba only by egla rufa. Shar avodah is passel. So the Gemara says no. There's a special limud. Shani para the alpinen oil me egla. We learned there's a hekesh also, not only mamatzinu, but there's a hekesh exer shavas. Now it says oil Ashalei oil by paraduma. It says Ashalei moshcha ba oil by Egla Rufa. So there's a Gzeir Shava between Egla Rufa and Para Aduma. And we learned that just like Egla Rufa, Shar Avodos, other Avodos, not only a yoke passel, the Egla Rufa, so too Shar Avodos are going to passel by Para Aduma. But now the Gemara says, really? There's a Gzeir Shava from Para Aduma and Egla Rufa. So let's also learn the other way. Just like Mum passels by Para Aduma, so Mum should also passel by Egla Rufa. Shani Pardi Afin Oil Megla Rufa. Begla. So the Gemara says now Egla Nami Tesi Oil Mi Para. So you should also learn Egla from Para Aduma. That just like Para Aduma has a psul of a mum, so too Egla Rufa should have a problem of a mum. It says no. It says by Para Aduma only Asher Aim Ba Mum. Only by Para Aduma the mum passels. So the Gemara says okay. So how come Egla Nami Yoksiv Ba? You said that if it says Ba, then that overrides even the Gzeir Shava. So if Ba overrides the Gzeir Shava, so how do you learn from Egla Rufa to Para Aduma? You should also say that the Ba overrides the Gzeir Shava, and Shar Avodos should not pass by Para Aduma, only by Egla Rufa. Well, says that Ba we use for something else. That the Ba that it says by Egla Rufa, Shaloi Ubad Ba, we don't use that to be Memayit Para Aduma, but rather we use that to be Memayit other Kodshim. That what? That Avoida does not passel other Kodshim. Because I would think, Solka Daita Chamina, I would think Laisi Bekavachim. Problem of having a mum. Still, it has a chumrah of avoida by selesba. So kodshim, which has a problem of mum, shemum poiselas bohem, einoidin shavoida poiselas bohem. So in other words, I would have a minute to learn that avoida should pass the kodshim from a kalvachomer from Egla Rufa, and that's why you need the ba to tell you that don't make this kalvachomer. And avoida does not pass the kodshim. And mainly you don't have the ba to tell you that shar avodas don't pass by Para Aduma. The Gemara says, ikal mifrach. Why do I need the ba to be memayit? There's a pirch on this kavachem. Ikal mifrach. Mala egla. You know why Egla Rufa has that avoida passes? Shekin shonim poislis ba. Mashenki kodshim that shonim do not pass. The Gemara thinks. And on that, the Gemara says, "Otu kodshim yileka the passable shonim." Kodshim also has a psul of shonim, certain ones, and that's when we need the pasuk. Yitzchak lahana kodshim the pasuk behem shonim to tell you that even though it's more chamor than Egla Rufa, because Egla Rufa does not have a psul of mum, and kodshim does have a psul of mum. Still, we're going to say that avoida that passes by Egla Rufa does not pass by kodshim because there's a pasuk of ba. So now the Gemara starts again. So what do we say? We said that how do we know that avoida does not pass by other kodshim? Because it says ba by Egla Rufa. The Gemara says v'kodshim the loy pasli ba avoida mihocha. We learn it from this ba to tell you that kodshim does not have a psul of avoida mihocha nafka. From this where we learn it out from mihosam nafka. We learn it out from a different miyut. Which miyut? It says by the parsha of korbanos. It says that you're not allowed to bring a balmum for a korban. So it says any animal which is blind, which is iveris, or shavar or broken, or charut, or yabeles, or gorav, or yalepes, different kind of mumim that animals may have. So it says, Loisa krivu eile el Hashem. You should not bring these karbanos which have their mum to Hashem. And on that we're going to darshan. Eile iato makriv. These, the aforementioned, which are bali mumim, those are the ones that we don't bring for a karban. Avalata makriv kodshim shenev de b'em avoida. But you could bring kodshim which has that they did avoida with it. So avoida, we learn out already from this pasuk that avoida does not pass by kodshim. So why do we have to have the other ba by Egla Rufa to tell us that avoida only passes by Egla Rufa and not by other kodshim? We need two miyutim to tell us that avoida does not pass by kodshim. So I would think one miyut would not be enough because I would think the avad bu avoidas heter. That's when the avoida does not pass. Aval avodas iser. What if you did avodas iser emol litzru? If you did avodas iser, which means Rashi says you work with on Shabbos or other avodas, you would think that kot comes also from that kind of avoda. So tzricha, you need another pasuk by Egla Rufa to tell you about that avodah only passes by Egla Rufa and not Bekotchim. Now v'ha nami me'halcha nafka. Well, even if it does another, we really have two miyutim to tell us that avodah does not pass over Bekotchim, because it says in the pasuk miyad b'neicha lo yisakrivu es lechem eliyechem mikol eled that a mum passes even when you bring a korban, even when a goy brings a korban. So miyad ben nechor, even from a goy, lo takrivu es lechem alayechem, you shouldn't bring the food from Hashem. Mikol ele from the above mentioned, which have a mum. So again we darshan ele iyata makriv, avalata makriv kochim shenevde b'mavoida. That only a mum passes by kochim, but avodah does not pass by kochim. So why do we need the ba? We have already two miyutim. It's that the only time that avodah does not pass the kochim is only if the avodah was done before it became kochim, when it was still chulin. But if you did the avodah aval avad bem kishehem kochim eimalitziru tzricha. Period. So now we have three miyutim to tell us that avodah does not pass the kochim. One is the etzem thing that avodah does not pass the kochim. Two is even if you did avodas iser, it does not pass the kochim. And the third is that even if the avodah was done when it was already kochim, not only when it was a chulam, but when it was already kochim, still the avodah does not pass the kochim. What? Oh, yeah? Well, we hardly did. I'm not sure what to do.
We're ahead of the topic.
No, we're not.
Oh, we're way behind.
I'm above today. I'm sorry. Take that.
I'm not sure what you guys want. I think we should keep on going. And so, yeah, sure. Okay. It's also it's these gemaras are droshes. It's a little bit complicated. Soon we'll get back to the easier stuff. Okay, so that's that. Now, Gufa. Here comes another sugya. But the name of the sugya is so I think you're ready. What? So should I stop or should I continue? What? Oh, right then. Okay. Let's say that. Okay, and the name of the game is that we know that there's a psul by para aduma and by agla rufa if it had a yoke, if it had an ol on it. Now, there is one chumrah that it says by para aduma more than agla rufa, and there is a chumrah that it says by agla rufa more than by para aduma in the psukim. In the psukim by para aduma it says asher lo yola aleha oil. That it wasn't taken onto it, a yoke. From mitzad echad, it only says yoke. It doesn't say other work. That's a kula, right? That only a yoke makes it possible, but another work does not make it possible. On the other hand, it says asher lo yola aleha oil. Once the yoke goes on, it's already possible, even if it didn't work with the oil. That's as far as paraduma. Egla rufa, on the other hand, also has one kula and one chumrah. Mitzad echad, it says asher lo moshcha ba'oil. That just putting on the yoke doesn't pass only if it was moshach, only if it worked, if it pulled the oil. On the other hand, it says which means that it did a different work also. By paraduma, Taka said Allah, but it only spoke about a yoke. By Egla Rufa, it talks about pulling the yoke, but it also says other avodos also pass. And the Gemara is going to crisscross which ones. So Gufa, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Rav Yehuda Amar Rav says. Over here, that's not so much the point, but if he put different things onto the para aduma, even if he just put it on, he just put it onto the para aduma, the uda shal sakin, even if it didn't walk, it didn't go anywhere, it's already psula. By egla rufa, it doesn't become possible until it actually pulls the yoke or whatever was on it. And now we're gonna have a mesaveh. And we're going to bring a big brisa, and the mesaveh is going to be at the end. Let's start the brisa. The brisa goes like this. Mesaveh, the brisa says as follows. Oil, it says by paraduma. Asher lo yola aleh oil. A yoke passes. Oil. Ainly ella oil. Only a yoke passes. Shara avodos minayin. How do you know that other avodos also pass by a paraduma like by egla? How do you know other avodos also pass by paraduma? Amris kavachomer. Uma egla rufa. She'ein mum poisala. That does not have a pull of mum, like we just finished saying. Still shara avodos, it has a chumrah that even other avodos passel. So paraduma, which has a chumrah that mum poisal ba, So for sure, it has the chumrah that even shar avodah is poislos ba. In other words, egla arufa be'etzem doesn't have a psul of mum, but it's more kal. Still, it has a chumrah of shar avodas poislos. So for sure, paraduma, which has a chumrah of mum, for sure, it's going to have the chumrah of shar avodas poislos ba. And if you're going to want to say that you have a pirch on my kal v'chomer, then I'm going to tell you that I could learn it not only from a kal v'chomer, but I could learn it from Gzeir Shava. Nema kan oil, we had this before. Nema kan oil, it says by Egla Rufa, it says oil. But Nema la alon oil, and it says by Paraduma, it says it says oil. Ma la alon, just by like by Egla Rufa, Shara Avoides, Poislisba. Afkan, so too by Paraduma, Shara Avoides, Poislisba. Let me stick with the la alon. But the Gemara now says, Mayim nafshach loimar. What are you gonna? The Gemara says, if the kal v'chomer is not good enough, so I also have Gzeir Shava. Why should the kal v'chomer not be good enough? Because I could make a pircha to the kal v'chomer. Mal, you know why eglo shar avodah is poisles ba? Mal eglo has a certain chumrah more than paraduma, and mal eglo has another chumrah shekein shonim poisles ba. When it gets too big, when it gets too old, it's not good anymore for
Is the Rav here? Is the Rav here?